Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, evening, whatever. It depends where you're at, I guess. Man, how can you not be hyped after watching that video for the past 30 minutes? I've seen some of you on real early and enjoying watching that video. I mean, it's fantastic. Shout out to Jim. Good work. So here we are. I don't think that I could be more excited with where we're at right now. And I figured today would be about an hour long from beginning to end, and we're going to try to cover as many questions as we can get, specifically to the upcoming rebrand and fork from Zell to Flux. So, give you a little background. If you're new to the project, we've seen a lot of new faces lately. I want to welcome everybody to the community. We're super excited to have you. If you have gifts or talents that you want to give out and help out with the project, we are a community-based project. You can mine with your mine. There's lots of opportunities in our bounty rewards area to participate in the project. We also encourage everybody to hashtag Flux, hashtag $ Flux, and also tag both of the Twitter accounts, so the Zelcore and the Flux account. So, well, here we go. We're getting ready. We're in the short strokes here, guys, and it's going to be exciting. So I figured what I'd do today is start out with a little synopsis of what's going to happen, and then we'll kind of go into the Q&A session. I have Volter on the call with me. Volter, can you hear me all right? And we sound good?
Hey Daniel.
Hey,
Hey
man.
everyone.
Vulture is the mad genius behind a lot of the stuff that's happening with the fork and so on and so forth. So Blonde Frogs, Trunk, and Vulture really have done a yeoman's work to get us ready for the fork. So, in a nutshell, on the 27th, what happens? Well, the 27th is going to be an interesting day because that's the day that we rebrand the project from Zell to Flux officially. If you hold your Zell, it will automatically become Flux. So for every one Zell, you will get one Flux. Okay. And if you're held in Zell Core or a platform that will accept the snapshot, and I think there's only one or two out there that are doing it other than Zell Core, you will then qualify for what we call parallel assets. And the parallel assets will initially release on KDA, Ethereum, Tron, BNB, so on and so forth. Now, the goal of those parallel assets is to be able to provide liquidity to those chains as we start to cross integrate with those chains. So we'll be available on Uniswap, SushiSwap, everything on the ETH side of the world. The KDA side of the world will be available on their DEX model as well. So it opens up a lot of opportunities for us to really start to get into the true DeFi space, because I say DeFi, but some of DeFi is not always the best. So I think that we're taking the best pieces out of the DeFi and we're plugging it into the platform. What else happens? So we're gonna have new miner rewards. So node operators are familiar to this. They get additional rewards above and beyond providing the node, and they're very profitable right now. They'll get KDA. If you're running a super BAMP, you can qualify for KDA. We're going to do the same thing for our miners. So we're going to actually do loyalty points or loyalty rewards for our miners. And I'm pleased to announce that that will go live in Zell Labs, or well, now Flux Labs, probably within right after the 27th. So you'll be able to see the reward program kick in. And if you provide hash power to secure the network and continue to keep growing, and you're loyal, I think there'll be 15 and 30-day benchmarks for your rigs, and I think you'll qualify for additional flux. So all you got to do is stay true, keep mining, doing what you love to do, and you'll be rewarded for that. Okay, and there's a lot of other things, but I really want to get to this AMA because we have just apparently a lot of questions. So I'm really excited to start to answer these. So the first question was a copy over from Ali, and Ali says, "What does it mean for every 10 flux a one Flux KDA token will be distributed. So think of it like a dollar. Okay. One Zell is one Flux, right? But if you hold your Zell and you receive your Flux, it's like getting a dollar and then 10 cents on each one of these parallel chains. Okay. And the reason we're doing that is if you stay in the ecosystem, and this is the key thing, a snapshot will be taken. We'll know who is holding that Flux at the time of the snapshot. And we'll provide those parallel assets because you are continuing to hold that asset. If you leave after the snapshot and you take and go to the exchange and dump it or whatever the scenario is, you will lose those additional rewards. Volter, am I still okay? Just want to make sure. Screen just got a little weird. All right, anyway. So yeah, so you'll assume these additional parallel assets. Somebody asked about how often these parallel assets would be done. The parallel assets are going to be done about a month apart from each other, depending on what the situation is. So once you've went from Zell to Flux and you were in the snapshot and you don't sell, then you qualify for your parallel assets to help provide liquidity. Now, we had a really awesome announcement this week because we have our very first exchange. Actually, we have a couple exchanges that are going to do it, but one it's only announced. And that is Coin Metro is going to be adding Flux and adding all the parallel assets. So a lot of people asked me, they said, what about the price of the parallel assets versus the primary asset? Well, one Flux is worth one Flux. A piece of a Flux is still worth one Flux. Would there be arbitrage opportunities between these different platforms? Yes, absolutely. You may see it. You can see it today on exchanges. We had this nice run up here this past week. And you can see the arbitrage opportunities between, say, KuCoin and TradeOgre and BitForex and so on and so forth. Buy it cheaper, sell it higher, arbitrage opportunity. So the market essentially sets the demand and the price for those parallel assets. So we can, from day one, we're going to be, from day one of the parallel asset, we'll be able to start participating in these DeFi pieces on all these different platforms. And we have about 10 assets that we're targeting within the next year. So I hope I answered that. There is a full overview of the economic model on our YouTube. I highly recommend you go over that. It's about 50 minutes long. I talk a lot about it. You can skip to the economic model part and then, wherever you want to go from there. But learn the economic model because I think it's very important. We are addressing a lot of challenges with our admissions curve and a lot of challenges around how we distribute. We have our miners and our node ops, which is now going to be 50-50, but the node ops don't lose out because we're going to add them to the rewards section. So as long as you're participating in a qualifying pool, which as of this morning, the majority of the pools are all going to participate in the rewards program, it's going to make it very profitable to be a miner. And we are 110% going after that Ethereum hash power when it's available. So if it's ever available. All right, next question. What happens if I can't update my desktop wallet before the 27th? Get in to support on Discord and get somebody to help you because you have to be in Zelcore for your snapshot to really work. Yeah, get some help on that because we want to make sure everybody is on the primary is in Zelcore. If you have an old Swing wallet where you can't access it, get your private key, get your information out, get it imported into Zelcore. It's time to do homework, guys. It's getting down into the nitty gritty. If you don't know, ask. Can anyone tell me how it will work for Zell to be in Zelcore wallet and get rewarded for having it along with KDA? Do we need to hold KDA? If so, does it matter what chain we have it on? So essentially, what we're going to eventually do is we talked a lot about the integration of KDA DEX into Zelcore natively. So you'll be able to use it straight out of the straight out of Zelcore, which is amazing. So from day one, you'll be able to start trading on KDA DEX, and that'll be great. I think the question is a little bit more about staking and or providing liquidity to that platform. So I think you'll see within a pretty quick session of up and running, as you'll be able to provide liquidity directly out of Zelcore for KDA and the KDA exchange. And I even see it greater than that. I think we're going to be a liquidity provider for a lot of different platforms as we continue to keep growing. So the true definition of finance is, it's decentralized finance. How more decentralized can you get than keeping your own crypto in your own wallet and providing liquidity and getting rewards back for that as well? So yeah, I think that's going to be that is on our roadmap, and and I think that's something that we really want to look at. What does the next collaboration with KDA look like? When will the node receive rewards for another currency? Oh, I think what they're asking is, what's the next collaboration? We have about 2 or 3 projects that we're working with now. One is fairly well known. The other 2 are well known as well, but not for the reasons that you think they are. So we are going to be providing that opportunity at some point to allow the what we call the basic nodes now to participate in providing computational resources to a larger project, and in return being rewarded with maybe their native token or coin, or perhaps more incentivized with a Flux distribution as well for providing that computational resources. So we're pretty excited about what the basic nodes are going to become, because well, as you saw, Volter has worked really hard for Raspberry Pi integration, so we're going to have some opportunity there. I think the basic nodes become anything but basic coming up. Ali, getting some reverb. All right, next question. I saw one from DK here. DK, why has the Flux API stopped pulling data for my Flux instance? That's a good question. And Trunk's listening to this, and he can answer that, because I have no idea what that is. He can definitely answer that for you. Could the community start getting transparency reports again after the fork, since it will be like a new start? Yeah, 100%. We want to be very transparent, and one of the things that you have to understand about the way the project has went with the new creation of Fusion, these will all be public ledgers. Essentially, it's a smart contract between the Flux platform and the other platforms, and you'll be able to track those particular items. But we want to make sure that it's easy for the community. So I foresee a almost dashboard or something like we have for the nodes that actually shows the different. So this is Flux, and this is Flux KDA, and this is Flux Ethereum, so that you can see, where how many assets are held in these parallel chains, and so on and so forth. So will that be day one? Probably not. It's going to have to be a more manual process. We'll provide Excel spreadsheets and some reviews on where we're at. The good thing is that we were kind of used to that with Zell. So doing it on Flux and getting in that good habit, that'll be a start. Yeah, for sure. Good question. Any possibility for Flux opening up range ports, since apps explicitly listen to ports and can't bind and publish to a different host port? I do know there was some talk on this, and I do know that it is one of our little earmarks on our ongoing roadmap. Tadeus would probably be the best one to provide information about that. So I'll pin that, and then I'll let him know there's some questions to be answered in the AMA. I'll do that right now. And then we'll get back to you on that. But those were all good questions. Oh, wait a minute. What will extra reward structure look like for the storage nodes? Oh, that's a great question. So I think we're in the process right now of building these different benchmarks. So we're familiar with benchmark D from Zell in the past and running our Zell nodes, but this essentially is a benchmark D for these different platforms. One of those things is to provide almost like a tiered scenario. So you could see, and Volter, you may want to speak about this a little bit, is you could see on your storage nodes the ability to earn more flux for the more hard drive space you have. And we have made some changes actually from what we originally published. We published 250 gigs of hard drive space. We've backed that down to 50 gigs of not solid state, but actually regular hard drives. Then what you can do is add additional resources on top of that. So maybe for another 30 gigs, you would get X in terms of flux. So the goal is to continue to baseline so people can be participatory. The bare minimum is 50 gigs of hard drive space, right? To meet the benchmark. And then after every, let's say, could be 100 gigs, whatever the scenario is, you will be provided additional flux for that additional computational resources. Or it could be in the native token of the project. So for every, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, there's going to be break-off points. You can't do every one of those. Let's say it's at 50. So you go 50, and then you're going to jump to 100, and then you'll jump to like 250. So at 250, you're going to be making more than you would at 50. So it's going to be a little bit like that. It's going to take some time to figure out exactly what the ratchet is for those particular areas. And we're going to probably try, because this is new and nobody's really ever done it before, we're going to try some different stuff, kind of like we did with our KDA reward system. So I hope that answers your question. Volter, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Sorry. Yes, like you said, we have reverted the changes. So the minimum storage required will be 50 gigabytes like we add now or have now for the basics. But we will probably have specific applications available for the Cumulus that only will be available if you have a minimum storage available. So in that scenario, and if you run those apps, depending on the storage that you have available to run those applications, you will get additional rewards. And like Daniel said, the rewards can be from Flux or from partnerships. And that it's not yet finalized, but that's the idea that we have to have on the Cumulus tier.
Yeah,
but we hope to have news soon about it.
Somebody asked a question. They said, "Volter, are you Portuguese?"
Yes, I am, and my English is.
No, dude, you hit it perfect. I think you answered their question. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're super excited about that, and Volter has worked really hard with the guys putting that together, and I'm excited for the new node structure as well. I'll miss my BAMF, and I'll have to get this renaming convention, which will probably take me another year to figure it out. I'll keep calling it the old one, but yeah, super excited about that. So let's see what else we got. Will there be any benefit for holding Flux on CoinMetro? Well, being who we are, we always say, not your keys, not your crypto. And there is always a risk of holding your assets on exchange. However, if you noticed in the announcement that came out about CoinMetro, is their intention to become a hybrid-based exchange. Essentially, they're a centralized exchange now, but their goal is to actually integrate DeFi pieces, and it kind of was a perfect alliance because we were looking for the opportunity to provide liquidity out of our platforms to not only these DEX models, but these centralized exchanges as well. make money on your money, right? So instead of hodling passively, keep your asset, lock it up, provide liquidity to these exchanges. And Coin Metro is ahead of that. They're already thinking what the next iteration is. So I believe there will probably be some staking for Flux. Again, as a team member, I don't necessarily recommend it, but I know a lot of people like to hold small amount of assets on exchange to trade, and you'll be making money on your Flux when it sits on exchange. So there's some exciting things coming out of that partnership. I'm really pleased. Let's see here. Hello. This was an AMA question. I think it came over from Telegram. It says, hello. Use case is a vital point in targeting on crypto projects. I read this on the Q1 roadmap. Increase Flux use case within Flux. What use case will the team add to Flux ecosystem? Well, clearly this rebrand and kind of pulling everything back to center was to address the ongoing use case of the platform. I think our target's clear. We want to provide people additional resources for providing computational resources to the team. So it's a true utility asset in the fact that it can be, it's good. We're going to require it to utilize Fusion. Fusion will be the new app that you can move from the Flux platform to the parallel assets. So there'll be a little fee to mint from one chain to the other chain, and that's going to require Flux to leave that ecosystem and go over to those other chains. You're going to continue to see our development with business class. One of the things we're going to launch is Run on Flux, which is it's almost like an AWS-based portal where we can start to engage our larger business partners and really start to get the use case ramped up. And honestly, the best use case is the current environment around the attack on these centralized models. So I think we are selling ourselves because we don't have a minimal viable project. We have a functional product that's people are able to see and use and participate in. So, they say, Dan, what's your dream? Is I want to see Airbnb running on a decentralized platform with an autonomous organization. Yeah, I want to see a decentralized eBay, perhaps. I don't know what that, and not Silk Road style, but you know what I'm saying. There could be a possibility for different platforms like that. So yeah, the use case is abundant, and it's only growing more every day. So whether you stake your asset, provide liquidity to your asset, use it for a parallel asset, run nodes, we got a couple other things that we're going to be announcing. It's all around participating with the ecosystem. Let's see, what's the next question? Can you clarify on the distributions for buyers after 327? I don't want to be misleading to anyone. I think it's easy. I think we talked about it earlier. Essentially, 1-to-1, Zell becomes Flux. Doesn't matter where you hold it at. Zell becomes Flux. You can hold it on KuCoin. You can hold it on Hotbit. You can hold it on every exchange, Trust Wallet, every exchange. You're going to from 1-to-1. The kicker is, if it's not held in Zellcore, you won't qualify for the parallel assets. So it's important that you get your assets to Zellcore. Get them to Zellcore so you can be provided those parallel assets, and they'll just show up. And as soon as we're ready for distribution, you'll get, I don't know if you've ever used a Smartify, but it'll pop in there. So as soon as we do that distribution, it'll be right in Zellcore. So super seamless, super easy. Let me see what's going on over here. Okay. What's the easiest way to get a nice spreadsheet for tracking my node rewards for tax purposes? I'm in Zellcore, and the Explorer, I don't see any options to export. Might be missing it. We have an export to CSV in the Light wallet. We do not have that on the full node. and I don't think that we're going to develop it on the full node, because I think eventually everything is going to be ran out of the light side of the house, even our node structure. So I see in the next year two things happening: a more robust tax reporting structure, so the export to CSV, but also a possible integration with a tax software. And we've been talking to a couple of people that are very promising, so that you can actually just kind of pull everything right up through their software and get a very easy report and for tax purposes, because got to pay the tax man, guys. So yes, it's probably not it's going to be a pain in the ass this cycle, because you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to really figure out exactly what it was that you made there. But I think in the next cycle, the next tax cycle, you'll see some interesting pieces in play in Zelcore that will allow you to do that fairly seamlessly. Let me jump down here and see what else is coming in. Any possibility for a couple of cold wallets with Zelcore in the future? Well, we've actually did the pull request for I want to say it was Trezor, Volter. Was it Trezor or Ledger?
Yes, it was Trezor, and we were on their device firmware, but they didn't want to add us to their platform. So they talk with us and say, if you don't create your own wallet integrated with us, we will remove from our firmware. And later on, if you want to add again, you need to have your own wallet integrated with us. And we discussed about it, and it was not something that we want to address for now, because there are other priorities.
Yeah, we got a few things going on. So I will tell you too that you could see a hardware wallet, but it may not look like what you know today. So we have some conversations going in other areas as well. So the hardware wallet world is changing, and just as much as what the multi-asset platform like we are. I mean, they're everything's developing very, very quickly, and it's great for the space. So I love seeing the comments, people coming in and saying, wow, I found Zelcore and, I can't believe how robust this is. Well, we knew this storm was coming for the past 3.5 years, 4 years. So, we're kind of ready for it to build it out. It's exciting. It's fun. Let's see what else we got. Okay, we talked about the tax reporting. Somebody else asked about that, so I hope I answered that. Somebody made a statement about the parallel assets being airdrops. They're not airdrops at all. And as a matter of fact, I can't stand airdrops. This is actually us increasing our economic model and providing those additional resources to people who have already been in the platform. This is not unlike, I mean, these airdrops out there where they're just, it's all of a sudden free money in your wallet. Doesn't work like that. You've got to be participatory in the platform. This is the more participatory you are, and the greater stake you take in the project, the more you're rewarded. So that's the way it should be, because we have a very strong community that participates with the project. We could not be where we're at today, and we could not be growing like we are without that involvement from the community. So big shout out to all of the community. Yeah, and somebody mentioned, they said the important part about this is there was no dilution, and that was really honestly one of the very first things we talked about when we started changing our economic model. Is we knew we were going to have to increase max supply fairly exponentially from where we were. But we wanted to make sure that we weren't making a dilution on the individuals who are already holding the asset. And that's where the parallel assets came into play. So at any given time, 90% of the total market cap or total maximum supply is going to be locked in the swap feature. So we have to make sure we allocate enough that if every single person on those parallel assets would decided they wanted to come back over to Flux and run nodes, that they could leave those parallel assets and come back, and we'd have enough resources there. So the number is kind of misleading. It's a larger number in terms of maximum supply, but there's a very finite resource of it actually circulating. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with coin market cap and things like that, because we'll actually increase our market cap quite a bit because of this. So this is good. It's all good for the project. The other thing was the second thing was we wanted to look at deflationary models, figure out a way that we make Flux more valuable. We don't put dollars and cents, but I will tell you the white paper was originally created around $1 per Flux, and our target is always to get the economic model in line to be able to provide that. I'm not a market guy, so it could be it could be interesting. Right now, I think we were at 13, 14 cents or something like that, which is amazing. I don't even want to talk about that. That was crazy. I don't want to jinx it, but we're still very profitable on this infrastructure, almost to the point where I kind of chuckle when I look at some of these reporting platforms that say, Zelle is the third, but if you start to add in these additional rewards, they're the number one, in a lot of different areas. I mean, so yeah, I think it's that deflationary model, understanding that we did not dilute our people that help run this infrastructure because the project is them. So, I think that was very, very, very important. What happens if you buy after the 27th? Well, the important thing to note here is that there'll be multiple snapshots. So if you move into that first snapshot, you're going to qualify for the KDA and possibly another asset. We have to figure it out. But there'll be an additional snapshot. So if you continue to keep accumulating, you will get more on the next one. So say it's Zelle ETH, you will get one on the next one. The kick, it rubs both ways, because if you end up selling it, then you will not receive those additional parallel assets. So, people will ramp it up, and this prevents people from, running the snapshot and then, dumping the price or whatever like that, because that doesn't help anyone. Right. So loyalty is loyalty. So these individuals who are being rewarded for these parallel assets, they're already in the space and they're already loyal. So we wanted to make sure that it made it pretty seamless, so that as long as you maintained and continue to keep building on the platform, you're going to be continued to be rewarded as we grow out. Hope I made that clear. What happens to Zelle held in other wallets besides Zelle Core on March 27th? They become Flux. Easy peasy. So you're just going to open it up, and Zelle won't be there anymore. Flux will be the asset, and we're good to go. So it's a lot easier in terms, none of this is easy, but it's a lot easier for the end users, because as long as they just keep it in a qualifying platform, they're going to get their one-to-one, because we just become Flux. The key is, if you want to get the parallel assets, you got to get over there to Zelle Core and get your assets in there. So I would not wait. I would get it done. I don't know when the snapshot is going to happen. I know that the block height has been determined, and Trunk's been testing it out. I know it's ready to go. So get your asses over to Zelle Core and get your parallel assets. So, all right, what other questions we got? Two questions. Will investors coming after the 27th give future token distributions? So yes, I kind of answered that before. Our goal is to bring those individuals in and participate in the network. So if I'm Dan and I'm too late for this first go round, there'll be an additional snapshot. And that works for individuals that are already in the space. I will continue to keep accumulating as much as I can. The reason why I accumulate is as I get those additional snapshots, I will qualify for those additional tiers. So if you're buying and you're holding, or you're running a node, or you're participating in any part of the platform, you're going to be rewarded for that, and so will the new individuals that come in. All right, let's go down here and catch up. What do I got here? For the new tier, for the tiers needed, will they be standard state drives or SATA? And Vulture said currently it's standard hard drives. So I don't know, the specs can be changed on that. We're gonna look at it. I know one thing, I have a ridiculous amount of hard drives, and I'm going to run a lot of those because I mean, they're just sitting there in a pile. So that'd be fun. What causes a Flux instance to easily get incoming connections while others ones have a hard time getting it one-to-one? DK, that's another good question for Trunk. I'm going to add a pin to that, and we'll put it up there, and Trunk can answer that.
I already answered.
Oh, did you? Channel. Okay, good. All right, thank you. Anybody that wants to check that out, just head into the AMA, and there's an update there. Let me see. Somebody mentions and said we need to fix the reward of basic, super, and BAMF. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. The reward structure is it is what it is, and right now the basics are kicking ass. Actually, I think DK provided the numbers the other day, and they actually, if you're running a basic, and the ultimate goal is to you as a decentralized systems administrator running a node, right? You get to pick whichever tier makes sense to you. So for me, I run BAMFs. Why do I run BAMFs? Because I do not have the time or the patience to run 10 basics for the additional resources. And there's considerations in there as well. So there's VPS. Do you have your own hardware? Then it probably makes sense to run all those. But if you don't, and you're running it on a VPS on Contabo or somewhere like that, then you have to make those personal decisions. The other thing that's going to be awesome is you're going to see each one of these tiers have different projects that you can engage at different levels. So this is going to be a really interesting process of figuring out who is more profitable and where, and are you willing to tear down a BAMF for 10 basics or whatever the scenario is. You're going to play the game kind of back and forth, and that's great because it provides us additional resources. So we're looking to make this very successful for all three tiers. Can you explain the plan to implement node ops voting app? How do I know what is hosted on my nodes? Well, that's a good question. So essentially, the XDAO and how we're going to implement that is to provide the node operators and people that participate in the ecosystem the ability to vote what projects are going to be on the ecosystem. So, for instance, if we roll this up and XDAO was in place, KDA comes in and they offer a proposal. It would be submitted to the team to prepare and then provide to the node operators and the individual. There's a voting structure that will be announced at some point, but a BAMF gets X amount of votes, the super gets X amount of votes, and a basic gets X amount of votes. And the ultimate goal is, because we're protecting our infrastructure and really our income models, that we'll make correct votes together to provide infrastructure for these new projects. So again, I use Airbnb all the time, but if Airbnb all of a sudden decided they want to become an autonomous network and they come in with a proposal, we have to understand that as a community and vote for it. And that's kind of how the consensus model is going to work. I think it'll be a little DApp that's in your Zell core that's connected to your Zell ID, and I think that that's the way that we'll establish the voting process. You literally get a pop up that says yes or no or whatever the information is. There'll be an area and the new Run on Flux where you can log into Run on Flux and you can see the proposals as they come in. So we're going to template base that, so they'll actually have to submit information about the project, who they are, what they're doing, how they want to grow, why decentralization is important to them. It's almost like applying, to the platform. That information then gets disseminated to the node ops and the different individuals who will have a stake and voting on that process. So, yeah, Volter, did you want to add anything on that?
Sorry, can you say again what was the question? I
Well,
was a little bit lost here in chat with other things.
No, you're fine. Let's skip it. I think I answered it well enough. I think I got him good. So, any.
It was related with node ops voting for apps, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that what you answer is right. So we will probably have a new application on Zellcore, and from the Zell ID, we will be able to know what are the nodes that you are running on the network, and from that part, we can get what are the votes that you get to vote on a specific app that wants to be listed on our network. So yes, that's the way that we are going to probably to do it.
Wow, great. What a great turnout today for this AMA. That's exciting. I like the community to be involved in that. Another question that came in was, and this is a little bit off the topic, but was Zellcore created after Zellcash? Yeah, it was actually created after Zellcash, and it was kind of a focus. We kind of had a lot of stuff when Zellcash was created that we wanted to accomplish. Zellcore was obviously one of the biggest because pretty much every one of the team members had an experience where, setting up these full node wallets or what. I mean, it was a nightmare, right? And all of us came from a mining background. So it was kind of interesting because they're like, hey, how do we get this all into one platform so that individuals can, utilize this for mining? And then since then, it's grown into investing, hodling, the node structure. So I think it's just continued to keep growing from there. But yes, Zellcash was the cryptocurrency that was forked off of Zcash initially. Somebody asked if Zellcore is going to rebrand. I don't think so. I think we'll leave it as it is for now. Could you see a rebrand in the future somewhere down the road? Maybe. Yeah, I think there's a lot of amazing. I mean, just quite frankly, there's amazing shit that's coming from the Zellcore side of the house, and I'm really super excited for the day that we can really start to lay out the plan for Zellcore, because we've laid the plan out pretty straightforward for Flux, and we kind of consolidated all these other projects into one, and it is Flux, and we have a mission, and the mission is to become the decentralized AWS. We are the answer to AWS, but in a decentralized manner, and continue to keep iterating that till it's 100% effective, like we want it to be effective. And I think Zellcore, what you're seeing now is a little transformation going on over there. You've seen the new logos. You've seen, the new ongoing content creation on these different social media platforms, which is targeted to our new user base. And we're really, we have these new users that are coming into the space, and they have no idea what they're doing other than they hold something on Coinbase or maybe one of the larger places. So our goal is to educate those users on the Zellcore side of the house that that isn't one, it isn't safe. Two, it's not a long-term viable option. And three, there is a better way to do it. So, we're really excited for what's happening over there. And we're really excited what's happening with Zelcore or with Flux. Will there be a development guideline for the dApps on Flux when it's released? Yes, we've talked about that before. So one of the things that's on the roadmap, and let me see if I can find it here. One of the things that's listed on the roadmap is to create what the heck's it called, Parker or Volter? It basically it's a like a pack that's put together so that people can easily learn it and start to utilize it right away. They can submit to the community through the XDAO, and the smaller projects that want to build on the decentralized infrastructure, they will continue to be able to do that as well. So yeah, there is a lot of concentration on being able to onboard new users to the Flux platform very quickly. All right, what other questions we got here?
What I can also add in that specific question, even if we do or make something to teach how to make an application to run on the Flux, the most important thing for the developer side is that there is no limitation, because rerunning on a Docker, uh, any developer can write their app on their specific programming language that he knows, and he just needs to make it Docker available, because our Flux network basically runs Docker's apps. It doesn't depend on if it was done on C++, Java, JavaScript, any programming language, it will work. So we might do like a small tutorial for a simple app, how to make just a simple app, create a Docker, and how to make the go to the DAO and make the process for I want to run this Docker on the Flux network. So there is nothing that we are going to limit, because being on Docker, any developer can develop with the tools that he knows and the programming language that he is already familiar and knows how to do it. So there is no specific in that department.
Yeah, a good example is if you're going to work on the ETH side of the house, you got to have Solidity, right? We don't require any. If you can Dockerize it, you can put it on Flux, essentially. So programming languages does not matter, and that's a good point, Volter. Thank you for sharing that. Somebody made a comment. The node structures, this nodes are encouraged hodling. With this kind of reward structure, it doesn't make sense to hodl. Well, that actually isn't true. It's completely the exact opposite. Creating, unless you mean just hodling and not running a node, run a node, get paid for it, right? I highly recommend it. Participate in the ecosystem. You know that you're locked in. You know you're getting your Flux rewards for running the node. You get parallel assets as they come. You're going to get the ability to participate in other chains like KDA and so on and so forth. So yeah, I don't suggest just sitting there. If you've got enough, fire up a node, learn how to do it. It was amazing. We've seen several people come in who have never ran a node before in their life. And within the past 4 days, we've seen them stand up new nodes, which is pretty cool. Yeah, last 10 minutes. Setting up a BAMF takes a lot of money. Renting that VPS for a year is $240. There's lots of ways to set your infrastructure up. I run physical infrastructure. I run virtual on VPS, and there's different VPS providers that are really reasonable. Contabo is one of them. That they provide the infrastructure, and you just have to. There's a cost in that. If you were going to be mining something, you would have to go buy a graphics card, which right now is $1 trillion. So it's much more realistic to pick up some flux and run a node than it is to go buy 3 graphics cards to do the same thing. So in the mining world, we called that delayed return on investment. We knew that if we bought the cards, they weren't going to ROI immediately. It could be 6 months from now, or it could be tomorrow, or it could be a year, or it could be never. So, in this case, you can run this infrastructure fairly simplistically. I encourage people to continue to keep mining, but definitely, get outside your comfort area and set a node up as well. Let's see here. How do we prevent illegal stuff from being tried to be hosted on Zell nodes? Well, that's a great question. And there is, as we continue to keep growing, there has been, and nobody's ever denied it, centralization to the Flux platform. The team has picked the projects that went on the platform. We know, we've seen the code, we understand what it is, and it runs effectively. The XDAO is absolutely critical, because that is going to take these decentralized systems administrators and help them provide input. And most of as Volter alluded to earlier, if it's been Dockerized, we can distribute it on the Flux network. And a lot of the things that we get from Docker Hub, we vet them ahead of time. And so the ultimate answer is we're a little bit accountable for it as a community to make sure that it stays effective. But just like there'll always be some nefarious folks out there, so there will be pieces put in place to make sure, as this continues to grow, that we are completely compliant with the laws in your respective areas. So we don't want to see this misused. We want to see this continue to grow and be powerful and be placed in the hands of the people. I envision a world where this is 40,000 plus nodes, and they're running websites, they're running applications, autonomous networks. They are an uncensorable platform that can allow people to just kind of grow and develop. So I think that for us to get it out of infancy and into this grand scheme, it's going to be an iterative process. So we're all going to have to be good stewards of what we've created. So if we're good stewards of what we create, and we really look at it and we take care of it, and we make sure the code that goes on it is effective, and node ops are researching it. If there was a submittal tomorrow, I can tell you 3 people that would review it from beginning to end, and they would provide insight into it. I think that 3 people turns into 800 people that are going to be participatory. Why is this valuable to the project? How does this make us money? Is there another project that's more viable than this? Is the code correct? Are these things? These are all things that we're, as a community, going to be taking on. So I hope that helps. Can we create a smart contract on top of the Zell Flux platform? Not yet. I mean, it's kind of weird, because you can, but you can't. So, but I think what we'll see is probably, you go back 3 years, we had all these things on our roadmap. We talked about a decentralized exchange. We talked about, all these different platforms, these DEX models, these, how do you integrate a centralized exchange, all this other stuff. And we've continued to kind of do that. And if you looked at where we are today, a lot of what we've done it with partner projects. So, doing the work in Zellcore, providing access to partner projects. KDA is a perfect example with their DEX. We weren't going to build a DEX. but now what we have done is created a kind of interdependency with their decks, and now we bring a dex to the masses. You could see that in other areas as well. So when flux price appreciates, hosting apps will pay more. How will you handle that? Well, it works the same way. The market determines what the value is of your infrastructure. And I think that, a lot of people say, who's your competition? And I say, I don't see competition. I see opportunity, right? So we are so early on in the space that, if somebody could have said KDA was a competition to us. I didn't see a competition. I saw an opportunity, worked with those guys, and we developed this new support structure. So I think as it continues to grow, I'm going to be honest, there'll be a day and a time where you will not be able to buy a BAMF. And I think in the future for scaling scenarios, you will see halvings. You will see node halvings. You will see a BAMF reduce its lockup. Let's say it goes from 100,000 to 50,000. And then those individuals, once the halving has created, they have a decision to make. Do they stand up another node or do they go to the market? Either way, it ends up benefiting because individuals will be able to come into the space fairly effectively. If Dan has 10 BAMFs, he now has 10 BAMFs and additional resources to set up another 10 BAMFs. What's Dan going to do? Dan's going to set up 20 BAMFs. That's what he's going to do. So I think down the road, the market will determine in two different ways, and I'm answering two different questions. First question was, what's that do to the price amount or whatever? I think it continues to just, we lock up and we provide that backbone for users, and I think it continues to grow. The other side of it is if we have a developer coming in, what are they paying? They're paying us by the XDAO and their proposal, but I see a perpetual foundation as well, where we're actually granting the resources to bring on these different use cases as they continue to keep growing. So, I think we have a lot of that's to be determined, but I think that if I had a big company approach me today, I would tell them, all right, we're going to get you on there for, a little bit of nothing and have you grow, because I think the node ops will understand that. And then as they grow, they'll meet different benchmarks as they grow, and then that increases revenue. So we can't expect every project that comes to us to be a turnkey moneymaker. We're going to have to look at these projects and evaluate them and see what goes on there and can develop the platform. So I hope that helps explain stuff.
Okay, I have to leave now. It was a pleasure to be with you, Daniel, here, and also with all the community. Thank you for all your questions. And after the HEMA is closed, you can still leave your questions on HEMA channel on our Discord, and we will apply them on Discord when we are available to. Thank you very much for your time, okay?
Thanks, Vulture. And Marco came back and said, honestly, I think you should get a good lawyer for the illegal stuff thing. Basically, you do not ensure that there is no illegal DMC'd stuff on the nodes. They will simply be taken down. We have a good legal team. We've already discussed this in depth in terms of how we want to handle this. And yes, and keep in mind, you're tied to your nodes. So, you're going to have a terms of service of running these things, what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. And, you're going to be held to that benchmark by the community. So, there's going to be a list of things that is and is not appropriate. And the good thing about it is the community is a gateway. We can find those things before it becomes a problem. So. Fusion is a bi-directional bridge? Yes, it is a bi-directional bridge. So, I mean, essentially, you can leave our ecosystem and go to the parallel asset. through Fusion. Somebody asked about the gas. Well, we don't have a gas model per se. What we have is a perpetual foundation. So all the transactional fees that come with minting and unminting, and different parts of the platform, they are sent to the foundation for perpetual growth. And basically, that's where our granting arm comes from. We'll be able to provide grants by people moving through those different processes. We looked at burn models. And I'm not a real huge fan of burn models. I think they kind of manipulate things a little bit. And so this is more of a foundational burn. It moves it to the foundation so you can continue to grow the ecosystem. All right. Any more questions, or I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Again, thank you to the community. Thank you to all the guys on the team. I am super excited for what's coming for us this next week. Lots of excitement around it, and you guys are making it. Go out there on Twitter, the Twitter space, and everywhere else, and share, get people involved. Tell people what Flux is. We are the representatives of the project. So work with your mind. Go out there and engage people. I think it's important that the community is very well versed in this. So we're going to continue these AMAs even up after the fork, after the rebrand, to allow the community to have input. So I thank everybody for coming today, and I'll see you around.